There were many suspects suspected to be the real culprit of the Black Dahlia case, among whom Leslie Dillon is notable. At that time, he was a 27-year-old hotel employee, an ambitious writer, and a former employee of a funeral service. He became a suspect when he sent a letter to a psychologist, Paul the River, of the Los Angeles Police Department. In October 1948, Leslie expressed a strong desire to write a book. To be able to write a book about the case of Elizabeth Short, at the same time, also revealing his perverted and violent nature. Leslie suspected that his friend Jeff Connors was the culprit. However, after correspondence through letters, the psychologist The River came to believe that Leslie Dillon was the one who actually caused Elizabeth's death. The two later agreed to meet to discuss the matter further, as well as to look for Jeff Connors, the suspect in Leslie's hypothesis during this trip. Dr. The River was accompanied by an undercover officer named O'Mara, posing as a driver as well as a bodyguard for The River. On the trip to find Jeff Connors, The River believed that this person might not even exist, which further reinforced the idea about Leslie Dillon. He was the real culprit, as he shared many detailed pieces of information that only Elizabeth Short's killer could have known. He also appeared to be very knowledgeable about the area surrounding where Elizabeth's body was found. Later, Leslie Dillon was arrested and taken to the Los Angeles police station, where he was interrogated by Dr. The River. The police eventually found Jeff Connors. His real name was Artie Lane. He was in Los Angeles at the time the murder occurred, and at that time, he was working at Columbia Studio, a place that Elizabeth often frequented. Ultimately, Leslie Dillon was released because the police could not find any concrete evidence, as well as Leslie's activities, around the time the murder occurred. Leslie Dillon did not stand trial due to some documentary errors, which led many theorists to believe that the Black Dahlia case was never solved because the police covered it up. Many details have indicated that the culprit was a surgeon, or at least had thorough knowledge in this field, because the body of Elizabeth was sawed in half very neatly. Only someone in the profession could have done it that way. However, after investigation, the surgeons connected to Elizabeth all had alibi evidence. George Hodel was born on October 10, 1907, and grew up in Los Angeles, California. He was very intelligent and well-educated, with an IQ as high as 186. However, he encountered many scandals related to his private life. He was expelled from university for sleeping with his professor's wife. He was involved in an incest scandal with his own daughter and had as many as 4 wives in his lifetime, before dying in 1999 at the age of 91. Around 2016, a retired detective from the Los Angeles Police Department, Detective Steve Hodel, found suspicious evidence implicating his father, George Hodel. He believes that my father is the culprit in the Black Dahlia case. While going through his father's belongings, Steve found an album. The photo was hidden in a box, small enough to fit in the palm of his hand. Feeling as though he had just discovered something, he opened it, only to find it filled with very ordinary photographs. George's mother, father, and brother, as well as family portraits. But on the back, something caught his eye. 2 photographs of a young woman, her eyes cast downward and her hair dark and curly. After examining them closely, he realized that the photos bore a striking resemblance to Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. After further investigation, Steve also discovered that in 1947, George Hodel had been placed on the list, one of the prime suspects in this case. The images taken at the scene suggested that Short had been surgically bisected, a procedure involving cutting the body below the lumbar spine, the only location where the body can be cut in half without breaking any bones. It was also a technique that was taught in the 1930s. When George Hodel was still in medical school, letters were sent to the press, and the notes from the killer to the police also bore a resemblance to George's handwriting. Around 8 people at the time also claimed that George and Elizabeth had a relationship in 1946. In 2003, in the district attorney's file archives in Los Angeles, a tape was discovered containing the voice of George Hodel. The accompanying documents showed that in 1950, while still a suspect in the Black Dahlia case, George's home in Hollywood was bugged by the Los Angeles Police Department, and in that tape, George said something along the lines of the following: "Suppose I did kill the Black Dahlia. Then now, they can't prove it anymore. They can't interrogate my secretary either, because she's already dead. They know that I'm concealing something. But none of it matters now. She was murdered. Maybe I was the one who killed my secretary." Hodel was also once suspected of being the perpetrator in the murder of Louis Springer in June 1949. Steve Hodel also had his suspicions, which was before he left for Asia in the late 1940s. George Hodel is believed to have murdered 10 young women, including actress Jean Spencer, who went missing in 1949 while trying to obtain an abortion. Steve said that at the time, his father was the only doctor in Los Angeles performing abortions. Details from the Los Angeles murders led Steve to a series of other killings in Chicago. This eventually led him to the murder of a 28-year-old woman named Lucila Lalou, whose naked and mutilated body bore a striking resemblance to that of Elizabeth Short. Her remains were discovered scattered about half a mile from George's home, along a street called Zodiac. Indeed, by this time, Steve had discovered numerous connections between the Black Dahlia killer and the Zodiac killer. He feared that things were going too far and that no one would believe him anymore. The story would sound too insane. The Black Dahlia killer and the Zodiac killer were the same person, and that person was his own father? Steve believed that his father had committed the murders in or near the family's home at the time. Steve revealed that the house had a secret room which George had strictly forbidden his siblings from entering. Suspecting that the bodies might have been disposed of nearby, Steve Hodel returned to the house in 2012. Along with a police dog, the dog detected the scent of decomposing bodies in several areas, and when a soil sample was taken for analysis later that year, the results showed that it tested positive for human remains. Many people have followed and supported the theory, almost exactly as Detective Steve Hodel stated, including numerous specialists in the area, detectives and law enforcement. However, even after 75 years, there has still been no official conclusion to the Black Dahlia case. The perpetrator who killed Elizabeth Short is most likely deceased by now and will never face justice. However, for Steve Hodel, the perpetrator has already been identified, and whether people choose to believe it or not is up to public opinion.